Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes is the prologue to what Kojima calls the Metal Gear Solid 5 experience. Sold separately from the Phantom Pain, many still argue whether Ground Zeroes is just an expensive demo or a game worth its price tag, even after the recent price drop. If there is one thing I can say for sure, it is that Ground Zeroes is no demo, but whether it's worth $20 to $30 will depend on the kind of player that you are. But before I discuss value, let me point out what you will absolutely love about Ground Zeroes. First, there is no denying that Ground Zeroes is one of the most gorgeous looking games out right now, especially the PlayStation 4 version, which renders the game at a full 1080p resolution with 60 frames per second. You truly have to see the game in action on your high definition television or monitor to appreciate the Fox engine's capabilities. While I did experience very small amounts of object pop-in and minor frame rate drops here and there, they were rare and brief enough to ignore. Complementing the magnificent graphics is some impressive voice acting. I was quite pleased with Kiefer Sutherland's performance. He may not have David Hayter's iconic voice, but it didn't take long for me to hear superior vocal range and expression in Kiefer's voice. The ensemble did an equally impressive job, with both Anthony Del Rio and Tara Strong giving a much more genuine performance as Chico and Paz respectively. Robin Atkin Downes also delivered big time as Kaz, showing off a side to the character that we haven't really seen. Then there is James Horan as Skullface, who as of now is a bit of a mixed bag. While he fails to impress in the intro cutscene, he does manage to give Skullface a lot more character in the tape recordings. I'll wait until I hear more of him in the Phantom Pain before I render a final verdict. Now, if there is one aspect of the game for which I can lay down the hammer, it is the gameplay. Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes features the best gameplay in any Metal Gear game, period. Controls are very intuitive, and for the first time in a Metal Gear Solid game, I no longer found myself playing Twister with my fingers. But most important of all, Snake no longer feels stiff to control. Switching in and out of Snake's various positions is butter smooth, as he now does everything in sleek motion. CQC has been enhanced to be more useful and accessible, and using Snake's various maneuvers like sprinting, rolling, and diving are a breeze to perform. Everything just works, and after a few minutes I found myself putting little to no thought into the controls in my hand as I masterfully controlled Snake, and Snake himself actually feels like the agile, flexible, and smoothly skilled soldier that he is. The best part is how well these controls translate into the open world Camp Omega. And by open world, I mean open world. There was not a single load screen to be found as I traversed the entirety of Camp Omega. Ground Zeroes is the first stealth game that has made me feel as though I was infiltrating a living and breathing fortified base. Guards acted and reacted realistically, patrolling their designated areas in ways that often made them unpredictable, and reacting at the slightest sign of suspicious sound, movement, or activity. The AI in this game is top-notch, making Ground Zeroes one of the most difficult Metal Gear Solid games even on normal mode. You have to play the game to understand why Kojima included features like reflex mode, detection indicator, and the tagging system. Even with all these features turned on, I can guarantee you that you will struggle on your first few tries. Once players no longer feel challenged, they can go ahead and try hard mode, which not only handicaps Snake by stripping him of various equipment and a significant amount of ammunition, but also by increasing the range of vision and intelligence of enemy AI. Ground Zeroes in hard mode is truly one of the most intense stealth experiences in a video game. Now, some of you may be thinking, what does any of this matter if the game only lasts 2 hours? Yes, it's true. Your first playthrough of Ground Zeroes, the main campaign, will likely run between 1.5 to 2 hours, cutscenes included. But if you're like me, you will want to play through Ground Zeroes again and again. The game's open world offers multiple ways to tackle objectives. Each time I replayed Ground Zeroes, I found myself finding new ways to achieve certain goals, new ways to infiltrate certain areas, and new ways to remain undetected. The game also constantly encourages players to engage guards in close quarters and extract information, as they provide vital intel in regards to positions and locations of enemy patrols, security cameras, points of interest, hidden passageways, armories, and specific weapons. Using this information, players can often find creative new ways to tackle familiar objectives. The main mission also offers ranks, challenges, and trials to further encourage players to look for new, faster, and more efficient ways to tackle it. If you are still unsatisfied, keep in mind that the game comes packaged with 5 extra missions that add a few more hours to your playtime. These side missions are quite fun, extensive, and unique, taking full advantage of the open-world Camp Omega. One mission has players finding an undercover agent who can guide players to the location of a hidden cassette tape. Another has players engaging in an assassination mission. Another has players planting C4 on anti-air turrets while the entire base is on alert mode. And another has players shooting their way through Camp Omega to guard a, shall we say, special member of MSF. The 5th extra mission will differ depending on whether you purchase the Xbox One or PlayStation 4 version. I myself played through the PlayStation exclusive Deja Vu mission, which involves players guiding Snake to recreate familiar scenes from Metal Gear Solid 1 based on various photographs. Disappointingly, I found it to be the least fun mission to do, even if the nostalgic elements and Easter eggs were enjoyable to witness. Regardless, the rest of the side missions will keep players engaged a few more hours, and like with the main mission, these side missions can be played and replayed with many different approaches in order to complete challenges and achieve higher ranks. I myself easily put a dozen hours into Ground Zeroes without even realizing. Now, if you are the kind of player who is not interested in replaying missions, tackling challenges, finding new approaches, and earning higher ranks, then it will be hard to justify paying $20 to $30. Buying Ground Zeroes is like buying an arcade machine. Perhaps a bit expensive, but it'll be worth it if you're constantly playing and replaying it, striving to find new things, and incessantly aiming for a better score. Otherwise, you're better off buying a few tokens and giving it a few tries at your local arcades, metaphorically speaking. But I personally found Ground Zeroes to be well worth the price. Even so, a few aspects of the game left me disappointed, one of them being the soundtrack. It wasn't bad per se, but nothing about it screamed Metal Gear, and nothing about it was memorable, which is rare for a Metal Gear game. Regardless, it was enough to provide the necessary atmosphere for the amazing and beautifully crafted, one-shot cutscenes that the entire game is built around. Now, as amazing as the cutscenes look, I was disappointed to find that Kojima spoiled most of Ground Zeroes through the various trailers that he released. The ending would have been much more impactful had Kojima not shown so much of it in Metal Gear Solid 5's GDC and Red Band trailer, but having watched both by the time credits rolled, I found myself unsurprised by what should have been a blow to the crotch. Not everything was spoiled in the trailers, but enough was to affect my experience with the game's ending. If you are one of those lucky few who hasn't watched any of those trailers, do yourself a favor and finish Ground Zeroes first. But perhaps the most disappointing aspect was the removal of key and intuitive stealth features from past games. In one of my playthroughs of Ground Zeroes, I remember carrying an unconscious guard and stumbling upon a large trash container. I logically assumed, oh, this is perfect for hiding this body. But as I approached the trash container, I soon realized that such action was not possible, as no prompt appeared to indicate any form of interaction. It just doesn't make sense that Snake would not perform such a logical and intuitive action, and there's just no reason for something like this to be excluded from the game. I also found myself being unable to knock on surfaces to attract guards. Granted, Snake can throw magazines for a similar effect, but it still doesn't justify the removal of such a simple and effective action. Some unintuitive exclusions, a disappointing soundtrack, the boring Deja Vu mission, and a semi-spoiled ending aside, Ground Zeroes is still a package that is worth the purchase for those itching to get a taste of the Metal Gear Solid 5 meal. It is not a sample, as many are assuming it to be, but rather a full-on appetizer, and it is delicious, although not the right kind of value for everyone. Ground Zero succeeds in giving players a sneak peek of what is possible with the new Fox engine, enhanced controls, new gameplay mechanics, and the new open world structure, and it achieves its goal of painting a clear picture of the immense potential that the Phantom Pain possesses. Early 2015 just can't come soon enough. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. For more reviews and to be further updated on Metal Gear Solid 5, be sure to join the NASIAN and subscribe to Yong. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much, and Yong out.